Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Here on this channel we talk about everything to do with the African diaspora, politics, music, life, love and everything in between. So if you're interested in those topics, then you know what to do. You like, you share, you subscribe, and you remember to hit the notification bell so you'll be notified whenever I have another video, which seems to be like once a week at the moment, but never you mind anyway, right? So for those of you who have subscribed, then thank you very much. Welcome back to my channel. So I'm based here in the UK. I'm based in London. I'm Caribbean, so a lot of what I say is going to be coming from that particular worldview. I'm also female, obviously, so I suppose sometimes I'm going to have a slight bias towards the female nature, right? The female way of seeing things. Maybe not though, really. I try to be as balanced and as fair as I can be, and I'm very aware of certain things. What would have happened if the Black Star Liner had been successful in that, you know, Marcus Garvey's ships were taking black people and facilitating the Back to Africa movement, and black people were literally just leaving in their droves and going back to the motherland to live and to set up and to build their business and to build their communities and just live, you know, as autonomously as you can in a global village and really get on with it, like reclaim their African identity and decide, I don't want to be American anymore. Actually, I'm not American, I'm African and I'm going. Like, I'm not actually English, I'm not British, hello. You understand? I'm actually African and I'm going. Like, what would have happened if the Black Star Line had done that? Would I have had a ticket on the ship? Would my family? Or would we have said, nah, I'm not getting back on that sea again? We know what happens when black people get on the sea. So let's talk about who Marcus Garvey is just really briefly. Marcus Garvey, the father of Pan-Africanism. Marcus Garvey, Jamaican, right? Caribbean man. The Caribbean, basically, if you don't know where Jamaica is, instigator and the forerunner of the African liberation movements across Africa, right? The inspiration to people like Kwame Nkrumah and so many more. Inspired Kwame so much that the Black Star is right there in the Ghanaian flag, you understand? Total respect to Marcus Garvey. If Marcus Garvey's Black Star Line had been successful, so what would have happened if, like, you know, there were a fleet of ships, like, you know, you have Thomas Cook that used to fly, I don't know if they do anymore, went bankrupt, right? You know, you have like Thomas Cook that used to go to the Gambia all the time, straight to the Gambia. What happened if Marcus Garvey's Black Star Line was just this fleet of ships, almost cruise liner like, just taking people back to the motherland, whether they want to live in Liberia or the DRC or Guinea or Sierra Leone, Liberia, Nigeria, Congo, Togo, Namibia, South Africa, Ghana, I can't say it, Ghana. I think that at the end of the day, I believe that the continent has suffered because the Black Star Liner failed to deliver what it was set up to deliver. If the Black Star Line was successful, it would have completely changed the course of history. Always, right? We can say that about anything, I guess, but I think the significance of that would have meant a lot more black people would have relocated to the continent. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. In 1914, Marcus Garvey set up the UNIA, the Universal Negro Improvement Association, and out of that now Marcus Garvey had a newspaper, the women's division, they had the juvenile division, they had nurses, they had uniforms. Marcus Garvey set up, ultimately, at the end of the day, a state within a state. Marcus Garvey was about black liberation. So Marcus Garvey, when he traveled to America to really set up and spread his vision, that was a time when they were still lynching black people. These were the times when it was, you know, living in America was really like very detrimental to black African people. So anyway, he set up the UNIA in 1914. So as Marcus Garvey started to generate thousands and millions of supporters globally, he now became on the radar for the FBI, and J. Edgar Hoover in particular put him on the watch list. So they continued to watch Marcus Garvey and what he was doing. Marcus Garvey set up the Black Star Line, a fleet of ships. They would buy steamships, that were abandoned, refurbish them, and those ships would start to take, back to the motherland. So anyway, now, and people would buy, tickets to travel on the Black Star Line. So anyway, the FBI at the time decided to recruit their first ever black FBI agent, and it was that black FBI agent that they used to sell out Marcus Garvey, basically, to really scupper the efforts of Marcus Garvey and the Black Star Line, right? Why do they always do that? Anyway, what did they really get? Like, what did you get for the effort? So you sell out a man, you basically, you work with your colonizer, they only want you so you could tear down your brother, and you still done it. They had this FBI agent now, sending back information about the Black Star Line and about Marcus Garvey, and they basically made up a whole mail scam fraud. So they then arrested and charged him with mail fraud, and he was sent to prison for 5 years in the US. Soon as that was over, he was deported. And in the end, right, Marcus Garvey died alone and lonely in London. And, for a lot of people, that was a very sad way for Marcus Garvey to end. Some people say that Marcus Garvey died really of a broken heart. And, that is believable, right? This is a man that poured everything he had into liberating his people and to freeing the minds and the consciousness of African people, right? The people that have been colonized and enslaved and all of this nonsense, trying to say to them, up ye mighty people, you can accomplish what you will, you understand? And knowing that Marcus Garvey he was on the brink of really making this happen, because remember, thousands, if not millions of people were really supporting Marcus Garvey. You're not going to attract the FBI unless you're a real threat, right? So for them, Marcus Garvey was a threat because Marcus Garvey had power and influence. Even greater than the power was the influence, I would say, because Marcus Garvey was really opening up people's minds to the real deal and saying whatever it is you think you're getting in the West, you're not getting anything, and I better you go home. Marcus Garvey's son, Dr. Julius Garvey, had petitioned President Obama to pardon his father, right, posthumously, because apparently there is absolutely no evidence, and there still remains absolutely no evidence linking Marcus Garvey to mail fraud. Absolutely nothing. It's a disgrace, right? Tear down the man's name, basically, impacted on his life or his lifespan, and you had nothing, no evidence. Come on. He wanted to get Obama to pardon his father before the end of his tenure. It didn't happen. And this is the thing now where I'm thinking, that sounded like, when I first came across it, I was so inspired by it. I felt like that is such a good idea. That is really a really obvious thing to do. But then I'm thinking, okay, so there must be more work going on towards that now. So I'm looking and there's nothing. I checked the website, there's nothing. And the reason there's nothing is because they've abandoned it. And they abandoned it since Trump came in. And I'm going to read to you what the Sun said about Trump and why they're not pushing for Trump. And this is one of the things that irritates me about our people. As Dr. Julius was interviewed for a newspaper called the Daily Beast or whatever, some American paper. And this is what he said about the petition and Trump, right? He said, "We have not pursued it with the current president of the department or the Department of Justice." He's talking about Trump and the Department of Justice, right? He said, "I'm not sure of the direction Trump is going in with his pardons. It seems he is responding more to celebrities more than out of a reason of social justice." Very bad. It doesn't read very well, but that's exactly what it says. And then he said, "So I don't know if my father fits into that context." So you're not gonna pursue Trump because you're not sure if it fits into his To me, that was the biggest load of You're doing it because it's the right thing to do, because your father is innocent and he deserves to be pardoned, right? So what if it doesn't fit into Trump's agenda? So what? You don't fit into Trump's agenda, but you're still in America. You understand what I'm saying? None of you lot will fit into the agenda, but yet you're there. So when Obama's in power now, because you see Obama as a black man now, you're going to chase him down to do the right thing. But yet, when you have a white president, you're not going to chase him down to do the right thing. It's the same thing with Smiley, Tavis Smiley, and wait a minute now, because I used to really check for him a lot. Cornel West. It's the same thing with Cornel West and Tavis Smiley. When Obama was in power, every day, Cornel West and Tavis Smiley were on the news, on radio, tearing down Obama. I'm not an Obama fan, don't get me wrong, right? Every day these guys were on talking about Obama hasn't done this, Obama hasn't done that, Obama le, when Trump came in, them guys said nothing, not one damn word. You understand? Why would you do that? Marcus Garvey's son, in this instant, should be a little bit ashamed of himself, because Marcus Garvey was a fierce leader and a warrior, and Marcus Garvey would have said he doesn't care whether or not it fits into another man's agenda. I am my own agenda, and this is the agenda we're going with, right? So what? It's a bit like saying, I'm a vegetarian. I'm not going to ask for anything vegetarian because they're all eating meat, and I don't know if vegetarians are going to be on the menu. It irritates me. It's, to me, the apple fell far from that tree. Far from that tree. He's the only thing that I would say that Julius has in common with his father is his intellect. Marcus Garvey's intellect was outstanding, and Julius, I think, is a surgeon. I reckon he's probably got, you know, quite a strong intellect. I can assume his intellect is really quite high. He's an intelligent man, but an intelligent man doesn't mean a brave man, and it doesn't mean that he's not a coon. Do you understand what I'm saying? Or whatever you want to call somebody that does things like that, or a wimp, right? A wimp or whatever. Okay, that's wimping out. You're wimped out. Anyway, this isn't really to slag off. This isn't about slagging off anybody. But I just wondered, like, what you thought. Like, to me, that was the closest anyone has ever come to taking Pan-Africanism really seriously and repatriating people back to their motherland. And ever since that, it hasn't happened. People are individually doing it. But obviously, with Marcus Garvey now, your economics, it didn't matter as much. I mean, there was so much going on, so you could gradually work towards that. There was a lot of unity. There was a lot of support for people to be able to do that. And, you know, when we do things on an individual basis, it's individual, isn't it? It's just one person here, one person there. It's not the same. It doesn't have the same global impact either. So I just wondered if, you know, if Marcus Garvey's Black Star Line, and, you know, big respect to Kwame Nkrumah for putting the star on the map, because the legacy of Marcus Garvey will never die. He is, you know, immortalized in African liberation. A lot of African people don't realize that Caribbean people are instrumental to their liberation. They don't realize it, but they should realize it. And if they don't, they can look into it. Marcus Garvey was the forerunner to Rastafari. So a lot of early Rastas used to call themselves Garveyites, because Rastafari at one point, it was a social and political movement and not a religion. But ultimately, Rastafari came out of Garveyism, and that was Marcus Garvey's Pan-Africanist vision and African liberation. It was an anti-colonial movement, and a lot of people don't realize that. You know, when you talk of Walter Rodney, the man who wrote How Europe Underdeveloped Africa, he was a Caribbean man. You had Edward, was it Blyden or whatever? I can't remember his full name now. But he, again, Trinidad, these men were at the forefront, the pinnacle of liberating African countries. And that was why, at the end of the day, when they traveled, and you had people like, you know, Julius Nyerere and Kwame Nkrumah and all the early liberation movements, when they travelled out of the country, that they really began to develop an awareness and an anti-colonial mindset, and really began to feed on that and understand how best to fight these liberation movements and why to fight them. Africa's liberation came outside of Africa, and we can argue that Africa's liberation again is going to come from outside of the continent of Africa, because if we look inwards, what we're going to see is infighting and squabbling and, you know, navel gazing. A divided people can never be united in that way, right? You need visionary people and visionary leaders. And most of the visionaries, I would say, are not on the continent, unfortunately. And this is not to put people down, because we're all one people. We're just scattered across the globe. understand what the African diaspora actually means. This is really about Marcus Garvey. So would you guys be willing to get on a boat? So if somebody decided they're going to do that, would you up and leave your, your life in the US? Would you leave your life in the UK and go back to the motherland and go back to the land of your fathers and set up and take your family or whatever? Or would you just say, I'm just going to stay and that's that? Is the Black Star Line, a vision of the past? And is it that we now need a different vision for the future? All things to think about. For those of us that are still cooning around or, selling out our brothers and being like, dodgy FBI agents or whatever, we need to stop that. How much wine and cheese can you buy, right? Have some dignity and some self-respect. Do you understand? When you see people that are trying to help people and liberate others, you don't drag them down because you're going to be able to buy a new pair of trousers or a new dress. You get on board and you support them, right? Know thy enemy. Know thy enemy, right? I think it might be in the Art of War. And if it's not, it should be there, right? At number 1, know thy enemy. Anyway, guys, that's it for now. I hope you guys have had a nice day. Thank you for watching and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.